Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am Louise Edington, the Cyberpunk Witch Priestess to the stars, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Mercury Retrograde, the first Mercury Retrograde of the year in the water sign of Pisces. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you will know that I am one of those people who says, don't stress too much over Mercury retrogrades. However, this one might be a little challenging in many ways, just because of where we're at collectively in this big kind of shift that we're in. Okay. And well, anyway, I'll go into it in a second. I'll show you all the charts. We'll look at some symbols and I'll probably pull some cards for it. But before I dive in, I would like you to check out my series Reborn Immersion. I'm having some real fun, actually. Yes, fun creating a beautiful booklet of series through the signs, houses, and some of the aspects. Obviously, it's impossible to go through every possible aspect, but that will be free to each attendee. And so it's 2 full days, 10 till 4 my time, mountain time, all recorded. We'll record it in 2 parts, and you'll have an hour off for lunch because it's going to be quite intense. So that's 5 hours a day. And we have an early bird rate till March the 3rd. So check out my website below. I'll put the sales page. It's louiseeddington.com/series, I think is the page name. Anyway, but it's also in the menu on my website. So check it out and come join us. All recorded. Recordings will be available. I did say 60 days, but I think I'm going to say 90 days. And the more I kind of dive into preparing for this workshop, as well as looking at where we're at now with all the astrology, I do think that series is even more important than I thought when I rushed my book out last year. I had this inner feeling that I had to get that book out. I would probably expand it now, but this workshop is partly my way of expanding it. Anyway, so let me pull the cards first, and we'll look at the cards at the end. And then I'm just going to show you some charts, point out some things that are happening around this retrograde. Nine of Seeds. I think we had that on the week ahead one. Oh, my camera's gone fuzzy. I will get it right in a second. Whoa. Sometimes that does it, sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to turn my video off and back on again. Oh, there you go, that does it. It's when I waft the cards too close to the I got Seer of Bees, and Queen Bee. We had her as well. Oh, same cards keep coming up. I'll talk as we look at the charts, but what I'm noticing as Mercury approaches its retrograde is that there's more and more talk of bring back the matriarchy. I'm a matriarchist, I heard somebody say. In fact, that's my new favorite writer, Nikita Gill, who wrote the book on Hecate. And I'll be talking about some of her writing in the series Reborn Immersion, by the way, because she's very in touch with these goddess energies. But there's more and more things keep coming to my mind as we move into this Mercury retrograde. But why do I think this Mercury retrograde is important? Because over the last year-ish, we've had Mercury, we've had this movement of planets between the last sign of the zodiac and the first sign of the zodiac. And this is like crossing the threshold of rebirth. But Pisces is kind of like the both. I always think of it like what happens to the caterpillar in a chrysalis. The chrysalis, inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar literally kind of eats its own cells in some way and then is reformed and reborn. And I think this is happening to us collectively. Now, obviously, the Mercury retrograde has both mundane and these bigger picture kind of energies, but it's very connected to this rebirth energy in this. But on a mundane level, let's just talk about this. Mercury is going retrograde February the 26th, 22 Pisces. I will talk more about that in a second. I will talk about the aspects and things as we go forward. And then Mercury will turn direct on the solstice as the sun, sorry, the equinox, not the solstice. I keep saying that, which is often called the astrological new year, and is turning direct at 8 degrees of Pisces, which is a really important degree, and I've mentioned that before, but I will mention it again. So all these things are really important. And so it's going retrograde from 22 to 8 degrees, so 14 degrees of space. Okay, so that wherever that is in your chart is going to be really impacted. On a mundane level, which means on an everyday kind of energy, my friend Celeste Brooks, Astrology by Celeste, she calls it the talking in your sleep transit, especially when it's retrograde. And so there's going to be a lot of delusion and deception, more, but we're going to be revisiting it and seeing it as well with this Mercury retrograde. But one funny representation of this, well, not so funny really, it's quite awful, but in that you can't make it up kind of way, graveyard humor way. There was a professor who was on a live Zoom call, thought she was muted, and she started saying some terrible things about you know, you can tell black people anything and they'll believe it or something. It was something to that effect. I was just like, oh my goodness. And all these people of color on the call were just like, it was just, oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure she'll be fired. The other thing was at the BAFTA Awards, there was somebody with Tourette's, and Tourette's syndrome is a blurty kind of thing, and often apparently people with Tourette's do say things they're trying not to say. But this person, when Michael Jordan and somebody else were up on the stage getting their awards, I haven't seen the BAFTAs, this person with Tourette's said loudly the N-word, and I believe he may have said it twice in the BAFTAs. But the thing is, the BAFTA, it was pre-recorded, and then it was not bleeped out for the recording. And the BAFTA people did bleep out, like, talk of supporting Palestine and so on and so forth. So, you know, it's kind of this slip of the words. I know Tourette's is different. I really do. But, you know, it's that kind of energy of talking in your sleep, of saying things that you like, that kind of, oops, I should not have said that kind of thing. That's very Mercury in Pisces anyway. But with this retrograde and its aspects, I do think that there will be some major kind of unintended disclosures, shall we say. And I think this is even going to be more heightened because the moon has moved into Cancer as well. It's going to be conjunct asteroid Circe, the sorceress. And I think, you know, people are just going to be emotionally careless, shall we say, and things are just going to like come out. But they will come out to change things so that we can see things. Here's Circe, by the way, so let's leave her in there. It also does have this very kind of seer kind of quality. And so I am going to put in one other extra. Probably won't talk much about her, but Okiroe, who I will talk more about later, the daughter of Chiron and Chariklo, who has a seer quality. She is at 22 degrees of Aries in an almost exact semi-sextile to Mercury. So people are going to kind of see, there's going to be a lot more kind of talk of prophecy in some ways, I think, of people like seeing into what's going to come. And I'm seeing a rise in that already in many ways too. So, as always, I could go on, but I did want to point out that Okiroe and Ceres and Chiron, to go back to my workshop, and Chiron and Eris are all joining together, and Chiron is approaching its sextile with Chariklo. I was going to do a YouTube on that long-term sextile with Melanie Reinhardt, but she's unable to do it now. Good reasons, but that's just the way it is. So I'll probably do one on my own, or see if one of my clients would like to do one with me. But anyway. I want to pull a card just for the station retrograde. This feels very relevant because this Mercury retrograde, where it is really important in my opinion. This is the Judge. 21. A witch knows that the ultimate authority is herself, and therefore she devotes a significant amount of energy listening, tending, and growing the relationship with that self. She is the ultimate judge, listening to all the various voices, thoughts, and opinions, both in her head and in her circle of support. Dismissing whatever insults her soul, now is the time to consult the authority in you and allow yourself to embody your value. Don't shrink for others. You are a galaxy with stars hidden in your skin. Trust yourself. I do actually want to read the first bit of this as well. So the Judge is the mistress of her own power, and she lives in you. Now is the time to call on her. Her message is trust yourself. There is no source outside your sacred self that can make decisions or choices for you. Your feelings, convictions, experiences, and inner knowing are enough. The Judge asks you right now, who is the ultimate judge of your worth and well-being? Is it a spouse, your kids, a boss, a friend, lover, or family member? Is it a project, a deadline, an expectation? Is it a school or church or other organization? Is it an old belief, a hand-down, outdated thought? Is it a society that demands your conformity? So that was the card for the start of the retrograde. Now, other things I want to look at, back to the chart, are, as I said, this connection to Chiron, to Okiroe, Ceres, Chiron, and Eris, I find very strong. It's a semi-sextile, which is an awkward aspect. It's so-called minor aspect, but as Rick Levine says, there are no minor aspects. But the two signs can't see each other very well. So in my opinion, this Mercury retrograde is kind of giving this healing bundle of energy that is saying, what do we want to take action on to create for the future? How are we going to reflect on that as we move forward? And the aspect to Chariklo and Vesta in Aquarius is similar. Mercury right here, speaking to those, is saying, go within and start to kind of really reflect on what's been emerging, what we're seeing, and what is coming from this for you. But collectively, I'm going to tell you, I think this is a big symbol of the divine feminine rising, or the great mother rising, or the goddess rising, or the matriarchal energy rising, whatever you want to call it. I'm preferring matriarchy at the moment because I'm seeing t-shirts saying bring on the matriarchy, and I think I'm probably going to get one. So this is the start of the retrograde. Now then, I love my symbols, so the symbols are quite astounding for this one. So the Sabian symbol for 23 Pisces, which is, we always go up because it's the degrees start at 0 and the symbols start at 1. So the degree is spiritist phenomena, or a materializing medium giving a seance. This is the energy of this. So note it, but James Burgess says, the price of living is dying. Whatever we do passionately puts us in harm's way. Notice how people suffer and live in confusion. He says our grasp on the nature of reality is a blend of the intuitive and taught, and if we want to establish the truth of our unique take on life, then we have to substantiate that what we think or feel is, we have to substantiate that what we think or feel is true. In the New Age, there are many hopeful people yearning for a new way forward and ready to grasp at straws, believing in absurdities and trusting their untested intuition to an unrealistic degree. Such blind faith has more to do with blindness than faith. There are more charlatans and fools than there are wise and honest teachers and healers, and even the sincere leaders may not be fully awakened and may be missing various pieces of the jigsaw. The real ones are typified by their willingness to serve, often expending significantly of their vital energies. And as I do this, we had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, this applying, and Deepak Chopra has kind of fallen off his pedestal. So have some other so-called guru-y type people. I've never been a guru person, really, but I've always trusted my inner knowing. But then I have a 12th house sun. So, but this Mercury retrograde, the start of it is asking you to really learn to trust your inner knowing and to trust your senses. We are discovering as we move into this massive shift of consciousness, that the biggest shift in consciousness that human history that we know of has ever experienced, right? We are discovering that we are more kind of dark matter than physical matter, if you will. Physical matter particles literally take up a very small amount of the cosmos. And I'm actually listening to a great book by Daniel Pinchbeck at the moment, called 2012, and he talks about some of this, about how quantum science is discovering that we are more than the observer, we are the participant, and how everything we think and do kind of affects everything else. And so this is very complex, but because quantum theory is, and the universe is complex. And so, but, I'm really passionate about moving into a more participatory way of existing with astrology. So this is what I'm trying to convey to you. The planets are not making us do anything. They do impel us to shift and change and act. So this Mercury retrograde is impelling us to start really listening to our intuitive knowing and not thinking there's some big sky daddy up there, or that the leaders can save us, or things like that. Anyway, so the Chandra and Omega symbols for this degree. In a museum, paintings are admiring people as they pass. Listen to that one again. This is interacting and receptive, by the way, but in a museum, paintings are admiring people as they pass. It's not the people admiring the paintings are admiring the people. So everything and every product of our imagination has a life of its own. This degree is deeply aware of this fact and acutely senses the aliveness of even those things which materialists think of as inanimate. At best, here is a vast and complete rapport with everything, which is the key to unending wealth. We are in the midst of our prosperity. All we need to do is see it and work with it. And prosperity means abundance in all ways, right? Okay. Now, the Chandra symbol for this degree is someone lurking in a dark wood. They are waiting for a passerby. Whatever we refuse to confront in the light of every day will lie in way for us, to grab us when we are most unsuspected and unaware. Because of fear and apprehension, it's easy to interpret this symbol as a robber or attacker looking for a victim. But it might also be seen as someone who has a message for us, but who for one reason or another has not been able to make contact through the normal channels. At worst, this degree may suffer from a continual undertone of apprehension. The antidote to this is to approach life with the attitude that everything that occurs is happening to teach one something, and to know that these parts of ourselves which have not yet been integrated into our consciousness are not enemies, but rather powers waiting to contribute their voice to the chorus, which is us. Anyway, so here we are, going retrograde. Now then, on the way through the retrograde, Mercury will conjunct, which one does it conjunct first? Sorry, I can't remember. Should have looked that up. Okay, Mercury will conjunct Venus first because Venus is moving fast. While still at this same degree, heart and mind come together at that degree that I just read those. And of course, 22 is a master number. It's known as the master builder, which represents the unique ability to turn grand imaginative dreams into physical reality. It combines the intuitive insights of 11 with the practical grounded nature of 4, 2 plus 2, signifying balance, immense potential, and a high level capacity for manifestation and disciplined action. And so I do actually believe in manifestation, but I believe it's a deep work. The Secret totally got it wrong in many ways. The best book on manifestation ever, I've talked about it many times, is the one by J.R. Doty, D-O-T-Y. It's in my Amazon store below if you want to look at it. But unfortunately, he passed. Anyway, it's called Mind Magic. Gives you literally a 6-week class in how to really go deeply into mind magic for manifestation. Now, he was a neuroscientist, and he realized after his first work with manifestation that it was all about the material world, and it isn't. But anyway, so this number is really about intuition and practicality. 4 is a very stable number. It's very practical. It's a big number this year. I will point to a couple of things that are already triggering that 4 on its own. But this is saying that if you work with this Mercury retrograde, I'm going to say that this short period, in this moment we're in, starting between the eclipses, can really help us step into this expanded consciousness wake-up call to align with our higher purpose, to balance our life, and to use our spiritual wisdom, inner wisdom. So that's what we're building. So but this one is bringing our desires, earthly desires, Venus, and Mercury, our mind. And these two, along with Jupiter to a degree, work really well, heart and mind. But this is really, Venus is our earthly desires, and she loves being in Pisces, said to be exalted. I don't use those terms. But then after that conjunction, Venus moves on. And Venus, you see, is trotting along. And now Venus has moved to where she stationed direct last March, last eclipse season a year ago. Can't make this stuff up. It may not have been exactly 26, but that could have been where Mercury stationed direct. But she is now passing this old ground where she and Mercury were retrograde a year ago. This tunnel we're in of endings, last sign, rebirth is just enormous. But Mercury on March the 3rd, the day of the total lunar eclipse, it's a blood red moon, which people often fear. I don't, but this is kind of like Mercury and Nessus. Nessus is the buck stops here. Nessus is I've had enough. Nessus is I'm tuning in and I am understanding kind of almost the kind of psychic impact of the patriarchy. I'm just going to call it what it is, and the abuses of power and the toxins and the toxicity that we're seeing being released through both the Epstein files and in many other ways, right? We're also seeing how the patriarchy, I've seen more talk about, as well as the rise of the matriarchy, about how the patriarchy has harmed everybody. I could go on about that forever. But we have to remember that the patriarchy is started about 10,000 years ago. And it's a small smidgen in the lifespan of humans in so many ways. It really didn't take hold fully until after that Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 4,661 BCE, and then with the development of writing, and then how, most of the modern churches started to develop, and how astrology, most modern astrology, including Vedic, but was developed by this patriarchal paradigm that started to grow after humans stopped being hunter-gatherers and living in small communities. Prior to that, the matriarchs were, central to the small communities. And so this is not about women taking over in the way that the patriarchy has. And patriarchy itself is a system, mostly created by men, but it's hierarchical. It believes in domination, control. It believes it's materialist, it's empirical. It's everything that we are moving away from. But this Mercury conjunct Nessus on that lunar eclipse is just massive. We are going to see so much on this eclipse. I also like that Pallas Athena and the Sun are conjunct on the eclipse as well. And so Pallas Athena is that wise owl energy, seeing into the dark. But this is all as well helping us to rewrite what the feminine is, the feminine energy in the world, and remembering that it's in all of us. But anyway, we are going to see so much more with that. So then I do want to take you to the Kazimi, right in the middle of... Oh, by the way, Mars had moved into Pisces at that point. On March the 7th, which is the middle of the retrograde, often called the sweet spot in the middle of the retrograde, the Sun and Mercury meet at 16 degrees. And I think I'll try to not talk quite as much about them. But 16 is 1 plus 6. 16, 1 is new beginnings, 6 is the great mother number, and 16 is 7, which is kind of the most spiritual of numbers. So, oh, sorry, I just want to look at the Sabian symbol. I got the wrong page up there. So this one is an Easter promenade, representing a celebration of individuality, self-refinement, and the sharing of personal excellence with the community. It signifies a need to express your inner light and spiritual rebirth through public action and joyous communal engagement. I'm not going to read anymore. You get the idea. It's just things are changing, but it's all coming from this inner kind of rebirth and trusting that inner knowing and understanding of what's coming from us, and then starting to express it out in the world. Okay, now then, the Omega symbol for this Kazimi is getting on his hands and knees. A man uses a piece of white chalk to draw a circle around himself. Let's say a human. So this degree has an intuitive sense of how to protect itself. Drawing a circle around yourself, either in your mind or literally, is a symbol of psychic protection, right? And how to filter out influences that might be disturbing or disruptive to it. It's always able to find a space in which to work and has a special gift for clearing the atmosphere so that room is made to do whatever needs to be accomplished. Anyway, and if it follows its impulses, the result will always be magic working through it. We need to rebring magic into everyday life in all its ways. But anyway, a Chandra symbol for this degree is a kangaroo and her baby who looks out from the mother's pouch. When a baby kangaroo is born, it immediately crawls into the pouch, which is like a second womb, and which contains a nipple that it immediately affixes itself to. For kangaroos, birth is a slow, gradual process that happens in states. It's the opposite of a creature like a horse who falls out of the womb and within minutes is standing up. This image signifies that this degree, at its highest, experiences the universe as a great mother. She's being reborn, who eternally offers safety and protection. It may feel isolated and different from others, but with usually no sense of alienation. It knows that we are all children who are being raised and taken care of by a reality that is utterly intent on our reaching enlightenment. Now then, I do want to point out that this sweet spot, 16 degrees Pisces, is on that very day, March the 7th, square to Black Moon Lilith, which is shame, but your inner wild woman in many ways. It's our inner kind of wild, untamed energy before it was shamed. So this is where shame may have been coming up, and we are going, why were we being shamed for this? Why were we being shamed for this feminine side, this intuitive side, in all of us again? But it's also making a lovely water trine to Jupiter, which is about to station direct. And so this is like some big rush of truth. Jupiter rules the sign of Sagittarius. Oh, I use that word. Jupiter is the guide for the sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter expands everything. Jupiter is in the sign of the womb or the mother. Pisces is more the womb. This is birth. This is the mother. This is the family. This is, but it's also your inner feelings. This is going to be like a rush of inner clarity on that day. Just massive. Okay. So then let's go to, to Mercury stationing direct. I'm not going through the aspects to No, I actually do want to go to Mercury conjunct Mars first, though. Talk a little bit about that. So on March the 15th, okay, so let's look at the chart for March the 15th. Jupiter has turned direct. Okay, remember I said that Jupiter was aspecting that sweet spot. Pallas Athena, the wise owl, is at that 16-degree mark, that pierce the veil, seeing what lies within and behind the veil, if you like. We are all becoming more intuitive and psychic, in many of us anyway. But oh, I forgot to mention that Pluto and Haumea are at 4 degrees for most of this period, but I forgot to mention it. But look at this, Circe is at 4 degrees Cancer on that day. I told you 4 was a number. That's important. But in July, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus will all be at 4 degrees after Uranus moves back into Gemini, and all at their closest peak of speaking to each other in this big year of massive shift. So, Mercury and Mars, they meet on March the 15th at 10 degrees of Pisces. Venus is now at 11 degrees of Aries, just past the degree where she stationed retrograde last year. 10 degrees Aries, they're semi-sextile to each other again. Ceres has moved into the sign she is the guide for, I consider, Taurus. This is just before my workshop. I did pick the chart for a reason, of course. But let's get back to this. Okay, so Mars is the guide for Aries, and Neptune is the guide for Pisces. Okay, and so Neptune is now in Mars sign, Mars is now in Neptune sign. And this is more spiritual, warrior and everything. Now, Mars was rewritten as the warrior, as just the god of war. Mars was a guardian of agriculture at one time, prior to being named Mars by patriarchal culture. Older cultures had Mars as just our will to action, our drive and things, and our hunter energy, if you like, as well. You know, this was the yang energy of, you know, we go out, we hunt, we claim what we need, just what we need in hunter-gatherer societies, not greed. And so, you know, it wasn't always men. In older societies, before the patriarchy took hold, they all hunted together, really. Anyway, this is at 10 degrees, which is new beginnings. With 2, the divine feminine. Mercury is revisiting how we take our action, what aligned spiritual action we can take in this expanding consciousness moment, really. Okay, so then Mercury stations direct the day before my workshop. And so the 2 series is at 2 Taurus. Picked it for a reason. 2 is a feminine number in her own sign. But anyway, we'll be looking at all the astrology of that in the immersion, which really is an immersion, a deep dive, an experiential thing for you to embody series within yourself. Okay, I know I keep talking about it, but I'm really excited. The more I kind of build the course, if you like, or the immersion and write, I've got a free PDF with it. There'll be a free meditation, but there also will be an optional extra workbook and meditation to take with you afterwards, if you want that as well. Okay, so Mercury stations direct on March the 20th, right after the Sun moves into Aries, is coming up to Neptune and Saturn. Saturn reaches that 4-degree mark. Remember, I said that's important, but this is the important degree. Now, 8 in numerology, I've talked about it before, but this was also the degree that Venus was at on the solar eclipse on February the 17th. She officially emerged from out of the underworld, her long journey behind the sun at 8 degrees, conjunct the North Node. Now Mercury stations direct, conjunct the North Node. And if you remember, Venus and Mercury were conjunct at the degree Mercury station retrograde at. They are two working together. These are the two most personal planets apart from Sun and Moon. But let's have a look at the number 8. Now, number 8 does represent power, ambition, authority, and material success, but personal, not in the patriarchal power over kind of way. This is about coming from within. The 8 turned on its side is the infinity symbol. It's the continuous loop of giving and receiving. Okay. So it does give strong kind of business acumen. It's associated with the planet Saturn, but Saturn is about mastery, wisdom, determination, taking your time, and so on. This is not about being like the power over paradigm again, but this is about balancing 8 perfectly balanced material goals with spiritual wisdom, as I talked about with Mind Magic by Doty. So this is about taking responsibility, really, to balance your material goals with spiritual wisdom. And we're feeling this collectively, and it's on the collective North Node and opposing the South Node. I see this kind of about bringing in the practical and the mystical as well. The two nodes work together. I've said that many times. And so that's been a long lesson that we've had going through this period. Okay. Now then, I want to read you the symbols for this number. So, Pisces 9 is a jockey, or Rudyard said, a jockey spurs his horse, intent on outdistancing his rivals. So this is the spur to attainment. It takes drive, energy, skill, and determination to succeed. It's James Burgess says, be determined to succeed. One aspect of life is the urgency and drive to success that a jockey demonstrates. At times, we must pull out all the stops and focus every ounce of energy in a determined way to achieve our goals at all costs. Without such an occasional intense spurring to action, we would slowly lose vitality and purpose. However, I would speak a little bit to the symbol of a jockey. A jockey is very attuned with the animal they're riding. Okay, so I like to think of it in kind of that way. This is kind of like man with the animal nature. Okay, in a very centauric kind of way. But this really is about the eagerness an individual must show in any true revelation of themselves, and the concern and struggles and competitions of everyday experience. But it's more competition with yourself. Rudyard said, this is Dr. Mark Edmund Jones. When positive, the degree is a spectacular gift for rising to any occasion, and when negative, witless gambling of every resource and potentiality. Okay. Last symbols. A ghost peacefully coexisting with a family in a house is the Omega symbol. I don't need to say any more. The ghosts are likely come back with Mercury retrograde, literal ghosts from the past, people from the past, memories from the past in Mercury retrogrades. But this is about living in tandem with all the ghosts and with a lack of fear of what is unknown, based on the belief that the universe is an inherently safe place. Okay. The Chandra symbol is dusk. A vampire awakens. Until we awaken those areas of ourselves that need healing, we exist in a state of suspension. This degree senses how to turn the consciousness away from the outer objective world and allow the unredeemed energies of the subconscious to come forward. It's acutely sensitive to desires and able to contact them without judgment, rationalization, fear, or anything else that might distort them and make them seem other than what they are. The fact is that what we run away from, we give power to, whereas we are willing to completely own and accept what we are willing to completely own and accept eventually loses its negative charge and becomes integrated into our being. When the ghost of the Omega symbol is ready to be integrated, it will. That's what I'm saying that one is. But let's just quickly scan. Well, it's in a semi-sextile to the lovely Hecate. She is showing us the way forward. She's moving pretty quickly through Aquarius now, but she is showing us the way at these crossroads. And one last thought, just of the astrology. As you can see, we've had all this energy moving through the last 3 signs of the zodiac. What's left in Capricorn is Pholus, which takes the lid off things. But this is Juno, our sacred contracts with each other. She is actually at the degree that Pluto last stationed direct at in Capricorn, in the sign of the institutions and structures of our lives. And then she's going to move into Aquarius. But in Aquarius, we now have Pluto left. He'll be there for some time. But Hecate is going to move quickly through. Chariclo moves slower, but she is in the last decan of Aquarius. I'm not going to go through these already. But now we have in Pisces, Vesta, Mercury, North Node, Mars, Pallas Athena, and Nessus. And they are all moving towards Aries. Nessus will not reach there for quite some time. Well, the North Node, is moving back to Aquarius. But soon we're going to have the biggest lineup in Aries you've ever seen. So I'm just kind of giving you a heads up of where we're going. But on this Mercury station direct, you can see that we've just had a new moon. So after the eclipse, we have a new moon on March the 18th as Mercury stationing direct, the last new moon at 28 degrees. And then the moon moves into Pisces. Sun moves into Aries, and look, the moon is we're still in the no moon phase as Mercury stations direct and says we are going to turn things around. And then everything starts moving towards Aries, to new beginnings. I swear we are entering this new paradigm so flipping fast. Okay, bear with me a minute. I'm just going to pause. I realised my coffee was going very cold, and so I had to quickly glug it because I don't want cold coffee. Oh, and you know my buddy Cassie. She somebody commented on our video, the last video we did together, complained that she was drinking coffee on camera. What? People, we are human. I can't find my book for this is really weird. Oh, no, there it is. Oh my goodness. That worried me for a minute. I mixed my books and cards up. So if you remember, we are back to the Red Seeds Tarot, because this is to do with the Demeter Persephone journey. So I'll be using that for my workshop for the immersion. So check it out. Honestly, you're going to be filled up And I suggest, that you attend live if you can, but also re-listen to the recording and things like that. So, the first card. Oh, sorry about this, people. I got the wrong discs I want. This is 9 of Seeds. I am fruitful. This is asking you to, so the winged one drops seeds of grace and gratitude upon the ground and tells us that our final step will be to recognize the new beginning that will emerge from this time of success. There you go. I can't believe I pulled 2 cards, I think, that were on the week ahead one. This is kind of weird. But this is the well, the seer of bees. This is I am deep. And bees are Mercury energy because they are the mind, they are air and things like that. But so, seer of bees. This priestess. Oh, I've got the wrong one. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. See, it's like talking in your sleep, this flipping Mercury retrograde. But anyway, seer of bees. This is I am communication. Okay. And this is the hierarchs. Okay. Drones are the only male bees in the hive. They do not collect pollen and nectar and are often referred to as flying penises, as their sole purpose is to mate with the virgin queen when she leaves the hive. Okay, matriarch is coming. Anyway, so this is the herald of holy news in the Eleusinian mysteries. He is this being, I'm not going to say he, even though he's got a penis, but is the representative of the winged-footed god Hermes, Mercury, who brought messages from the gods to the people. This seer communicated sacred information to the teachers of the mysti and was present at all stages of the mysteries. We are going into a period of a huge initiation, and that's what my series Reborn Immersion is. This seer's energy is swift and striking and holds a richness of knowledge with an intellect that is discriminating, creative, and intense. Communication and movement comes easily to this seer. Speaking to others is a gift he holds, and as an orator, he holds the attention of all. He is a natural leader who is courageous and assertive. On occasions, he may lose his temper and stamp off till he cools down, but this only happens when he's up against serious stupidity or wrongdoing. Listen to what this seer has to say, for he brings words of wisdom and messages from high places that will teach us things we don't yet know. Talk to this seer. So, this is communication, but communication from the divine. And then the last card I picked, again, was Artemis that we had for the week ahead. I am independent. This is the aspect of the feminine, an independent and perceptive woman of integrity, penetrating mind, and strong will. Her wisdom is derived from her life experiences that at times have been painful. Plain truths arise from her, but are always accompanied with kindness, empathy, and compassion. She holds pain forever in her heart, but is committed to living an abundant life and holds a deep gratitude for all the joy it brings. This queen is a teacher, a priestess who can offer us insight about her dreams and meditations. Her wisdom is always clear and powerful. Her truth might be difficult to hear and accept, but know that she will never lie to us. And again, it's your independent queen bee, your inner voice. Oh my goodness. What time we are in. And I know this is long again. another long video, but we are in amazing times. I actually want to go and just I'm going to paraphrase a story my friend Kathy shared on Facebook. So, Pippi Longstocking. So, did you know that Pippi Longstocking's author, the creator of Pippi Longstocking, was secretly reading Nazi letters during the war and inventing the world's most independent child as an antidote to Hitler? Long story short, Swedish creator of Astrid Lindgren was a 33-year-old mother and aspiring writer, and she took what she called her dirty job. She worked at the Postal Control Center, and her assignment was to steam open private and military letters crossing Sweden's borders, read them, record sensitive information, and then seal them back up. Anyway, there was letters from soldiers, love letters, business correspondence, all that. But some letters contained far darker things. They contained the truth about what was happening in Nazi-occupied Europe in May 1941, years before most people knew about the death camps. Lindgren wrote in her diary about what she discovered. 1,000 Jews a day are being forcibly transported to Poland, blah, blah, blah. She understood immediately what this meant, and she understood something else. As long as you're only reading about it in the paper, you can avoid believing it. But when you read it in a letter, it suddenly brings it home. Anyway, she filled 17 volumes with diary entries and newspaper clippings documenting the war. She knew she couldn't stop the Nazi machine alone, but she could save the people being murdered. She couldn't save the people being murdered, but she could do one thing. So she had her 17-year-old daughter, Karen, who was at home. She was frequently ill, blah, blah, blah. So Lindgren began inventing stories about a little girl, unlike any child in real life. A girl who lived alone with no parents to tell her what to do. A girl who was stronger than any man, who could lift her horse with one hand. A girl who had a suitcase full of gold coins and didn't have to work for anyone. A girl who didn't follow rules just because adults said so, but who was genuinely, fundamentally kind. A girl who stood up to bullies, who helped people weaker than herself, who refused to bow to authority unless that authority earned her respect. So she named the character Pippi Langstrump, or Pippi Longstocking. So she was creating the opposite of everything the Nazis represented. Hitler demanded obedience. Pippi questioned authority. Nazis worshipped strength for domination. Pippi was the strongest person in her world and used that strength to protect the weak. Fascism required conformity. Pippi was defiantly, joyfully herself. The Third Reich was built on cruelty. Pippi was kind to everyone unless they were bullies. Then she humiliated them with humor, not violence. Anyway, I'm not going to go on, but anyway, most readers never knew that while Lindgren invented stories about a little girl who feared no one, she was reading letters describing people being murdered by a regime that demanded absolute fear. Most never knew that Pippi's famous independence and refusal to submit to bullies was a deliberate counter-message to fascist obedience. Now, I just want you to extrapolate that out to what's happening in the world now, but also to the cruelty of the patriarchal systems and things that have been revealed or are being revealed at the moment. Okay. Maybe we all need to go and read Pippi Longstocking. I've never read it. I think I might. I bet it's on Audible. So, but I think I'm pretty fearless already. But anyway, love you all. Happy Mercury retrograde. Please really do not sweat the small stuff with this. The shadow of this Mercury retrograde in Pisces can be fearful thoughts and things. I hope what I've covered here will inspire you to go within and listen to your inner knowing. And if the fears come up, say, all right, how can I deal with this? Or is it even really true? Or is it deception? I think there's going to be a lot of deception, more deception revealed through this period. So love you.